It's 5:30. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Roll call. At-large Cummins.
Here.
At-large Poshton.
Here.
Ward 1 Welker.
Yes, here.
Ward 2 Helm. Ward 3 Johnston.
Here.
All right. Okay, stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next item is the approval of the agenda. Any additions or changes, edits need to be made to the agenda? If not, look for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Johnston, seconded by Poshton.
Cummins?
Yes.
Poshton?
Yes.
Johnston?
Yes.
Welker?
Yes.
All right, communications. Is there anyone present who would like to address the council? No? Okay. All right, moving on to city business. First item under city business is resolution number 042924A. Resolution accepting a bid for the James Kennedy Family Aquatic Center Pool Dehumidification Project 2024.
And the bid results are again laid out in the resolution. It's a matter of knowing if the council's ready to make a selection and which selection you have in mind.
Brian, I went on the computer and there was nothing on the computer about tonight's meeting. Normally you would have had the resolution there for people to see. So right now I haven't had an opportunity to see what the resolution reads. Could you describe it?
Well, for the most part, it's built around the bids that came in. And so there were two bidders. One was J.L. Brady. The other one was Garling Construction. The first bid was the base bid, which is roof mounted. For that, J.L. Brady bid $683,500. And they had a proposed construction period of May to September. Garling Construction bid $558,000. And their proposed construction period is May to July. The ground-mounted option was alternate one. For alternate one, J.L. Brady had an ad of $155,200, making the total for alternate one at $838,700. And their proposed construction period was now May to October. Garling for ground mounted alternate one was an ad of $93,000. So that would make the total of their alternate one $651,000. And the proposed construction period would again be May to July. The engineer's estimate was lower than either of those two bids. It was $496,000 for the base bid, and they estimated, I have a typo here, not plus 77,000, it would have been minus 77,000. I'll have to correct that on that. Now on here, and again, we left the selection of who as a blank and which option as a blank.
What are the pros and cons of roof and ground as far as actual maintenance and taking care of the unit, that kind of thing? Is the rest of it out of the picture at the moment, like just for whatever we would have to do for maintenance of it? Why would we want one over the other? Do we know?
I know it's more accessible if it's on the ground. And usually if they serviced it on the roof, they'd have to get scissor lift. Other than that, I mean, that's the biggest thing, whenever they have to service anything and bring everything up there, they would have to get a scissor lift. But Virgil and Adam, when they serviced it, they may do without one. It just depends on who we get to service it, if we, service agreement with somebody.
So I think one of the probably more common questions that some of the council has based on some different discussions, or email responses, is the concern about the roof mounted option and its viability and structural reinforcements, or I think we had, some of us, all of us maybe, had the thought that we had taken the roof mounted option off the table just based on the current roof structure not holding it, unless we were able to get the two smaller units, which I think based on the timeline of those two smaller units, we weren't going to, we were just kind of sticking with the ground mounted option. Yeah, Terry. Terry obviously has something to say.
Brian, when you gave the first alternate number 1 for J.L. Brady, was that for ground mount? Was $838,000?
Yes,
And then for Garling, it was 496. No, excuse me, 651,000.
yes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure we were both, those estimates were both for ground mount. To talk a little bit to Adam's question, technically, you don't have to get a scissors lift to go up on top of that roof. They're required by code to go ahead and have a ladder mounted on the side of the building or an internal ladder. That is a requirement by code. That, I guess, was never enforced when the building was built because nobody was looking at it. But besides that, Adam's right. I mean, it's just one being on the roof, one being on the ground. I don't think there's any one that's better than the other. It's a visual thing again.
Sure.
You know, so I don't see any differences there.
Okay.
It was my understanding too that I thought the roof mount was taken off they weren't gonna look at doing a roof mount. I thought it was all ground because I had the gentleman to email me and wanted to know if school could put up a fence. I don't have a problem with that.
I think part of it was because we also were of the understanding that the roof was going to be more expensive versus less expensive. So that kind of threw us all, I think, for a little bit of a loop there.
And I was thinking about that too, Abby. I'm going, all those trusses are over there on that lower roof are residential trusses. I mean, and I don't recall how much more it's gonna be to modify those trusses, but heck, you can pull those trusses off. Get an attic truss, which is designed to have this big opening in the middle and give it a steeper pitch. You got all kinds of room to put a steeper pitch on it to get your ducts through the attic and up. I have a hard time understanding how that could be that much more expensive.
Don't forget though.
To put it on the ground.
You got an entire network underneath mounted to the ceiling with
Well, there's other
track
options
and
where
hangers.
before there was trusses, people used to stick build their roofs. You just go ahead and use TGIs and stick build it, whatever pitch you want. You can go right over top of that. So I understand what you're saying, Brian. I haven't been in there, I haven't looked and see what
Stay
was
and
built.
leave the ceiling, somehow leave the ceiling. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, you can just stick build, go with the 812, roof. But
So you're meaning putting a roof on top of the roof that's there and running the ductwork through that?
yeah, I mean, you could take the roof that's there, everything except the ceiling joists, tear it off and stick build it over top of that, whatever you need for your space in there to run your ducts. You do it all the time.
Terry, to add to that thought, I was up there with the contractors one day, and one of them come up with the idea of, if you could picture a cupola, a full-length cupola,
maybe, and you're coming off the existing peak,
Yeah,
and build it however, 10 by 10, basically with an additional, if you picture a barn with a roof below and then a cupola coming up, just an added, they said that could be built way cheaper than modification
yeah, that's
of
another
the
option.
existing
Mhm.
rafters. So along the same lines, it just gives another picture.
Mhm. So,
So when we're looking at the cost here, the ground mount, right, they came up with it being that had to do mostly with cost of cement, concrete, and then also the cost of fencing, screening it. That's where those costs are mostly coming from and some of the ductwork. Is that correct? Am I remembering that
That's the
correctly?
way I took it, yeah.
Okay. So we know that, for example, I was wanting to reach out to Terry, right, about the whole, could we save some dollars if we go with the ground mounts, with having the school do the screening, the fencing of it, things like that. That's all stuff that can be adjusted, correct, or not correct?
I suppose if you tell them to delete it from the project and that we would replace it on our own, I suppose the question would be how much of a delete would it get?
Right. Well, I'm just hearing all these ideas too. I mean, that sound like alternatives maybe to what
But
came across.
I think I should mention, the reason why the roof mounted was added was because it was basically already designed. It was the original bid that was turned down last year. So it really only was a matter of just including it again.
Right, and that's where I guess where I'm torn at, because last year, had this been put in front of us, and I wouldn't have seen anything about potential issues with the roof, that thing would be up there, and that's where we wanted it. So now, it's just the whole, does it work up there? Is it safe up there? That's throwing me.
But now, Jason, you had the question about did it have an engineer stamp? And I think the engineer answered that. Was that to your satisfaction?
That was to mine, as long as the engineer had a stamp on
Mhm.
it saying that it would support it. That was my concern.
Right.
And again, again, it was just, it was a simple question. I assumed it did, but I didn't want to assume anything.
Never
So-
assume.
Right, right.
Yeah.
The thing you gotta realize is anytime you have a public building being built, I don't care if it's technically if it's a 20 by 20 building. If it's a public building, by Iowa architectural law, it's required to be stamped. So these plans will be stamped. I have one more question. So what was the price to have it put on the roof?
It
That's your
was
first bid.
$558.
I thought that was a ground mount for jail rate.
No, if you look at that.
I don't have that.
It was
Oh,
from Garling, the roof mounted was 558,000 even.
It's actually the cheapest bid.
It's the closest to them.
And that's the roof mount.
Mhm.
And that includes all the construction they're gonna have to do to reinforce that roof structure?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I'm.
Torn.
I mean, if that's cheaper than going ahead and putting it on the ground, I think it'd almost be a no-brainer.
That's kind of what my feeling is.
Yeah,
But I also want,
It's,
I think that's the
You're gonna have to-
consensus, but I think the concern is just getting the confirmation that the roof structure, whatever reinforcements they're going to do, is actually gonna hold the unit.
if it's stamped,
That's in the bid.
Right,
So
correct.
it isn't a question.
yeah, and my only thing was, I don't want to be here in 2 years again going, no, screwed that up. Yeah.
yeah, no,
Or like Abby said,
now we
when
have
it
a
falls
whole
through.
roof.
But with the
Right.
engineer stamp, I mean,
It's gotta be stamped.
we did, yeah, and I do all things all the time with engineer stamps. If they stamp it, I stand behind it 100%. I'm not worried about it.
Because my butt is covered after that.
My opinion, if it's that much cheaper, just put it on the roof, and you
Kind
don't
of.
worry about the fence, you don't have to look at the ugly duck, and you're done.
You don't have to
It's
hear
gonna
that.
look no different than what it was up there before, except it's a bigger unit. As long
Kind of.
as it's designed to carry the load.
Correct.
Yep.
Because some of the questions, when we started talking about putting it on the ground, was like the noise and the aesthetic and all these things, and that's all taken out of the equation.
Yep. It checked honestly, it checks all of our boxes.
And
I don't know what else.
They can get right on it too.
Yeah. And if, like I said, I'm good with, as long as it has an engineer stamp, I'm good, which, like Terry said, I assumed it did, I just didn't want to assume anything.
So there's no change in the plans that they sent originally? Or those plans were from the engineer, right?
Yes.
So that's the plans that they would be building off of, right? Those original roof mounted plans?
Yes. And as I mentioned, when J.L. Brady was the original bidder last year, that bid compared to this one from Garling's is 32,000 less.
And this year, it's $130,000 less, and they get on it right away.
Yeah. I mean, supply and demand, we're not waiting on things like we were last year,
Right.
so.
And it needs done.
Yep. I agree.
Does anybody know, is any of their modification on the side that you view from underneath? Or is it all on the top? If it is underneath, does it include paint and finished surface? I mean,
What do you mean by underneath?
I haven't seen the plan for this proposed beef up. Is it top side? Is it bottom side? Is it both? If it's bottom side, is it painted? You know what I mean?
No, I don't know if there's, are you following? what-
Yeah, so basically, is it top side of the roof or bottom side of the roof? If they're reinforcing with steel on the bottom side, he wants to make sure it's painted, so we're not running into the rust.
I've
issue.
never seen the plan. That's the reason
Yeah.
I asked that.
So, I don't know either.
I don't remember. Terry, do you remember?
No, I haven't seen it that I know of. I would think it'd have to be on the top side, I would think, because otherwise they're gonna have to, if they're gonna run new steel underneath there, that steel has to bear on something. Usually it bears on your exterior walls.
That's kind of what, the more I thought about it. Yes, they're gonna have I-beams going
Yeah.
exterior to exterior.
That's what I would assume, but I can't.
Right.
Say for sure.
I think that's how they explained it last year when the bid was, that it would go across.
Crossed.
And
So-
then rest on the exterior walls.
Yeah, I think that's what they said.
I'm not sure that we saw a roof mounted plan this year, because we were pretty sure it wasn't gonna go on the roof.
I don't think you and George probably didn't.
Right.
Yeah, maybe
saying,
not,
so,
because maybe those
no.
plans we looked at were ground mounted. Remember, because you had sent the email about the special inspections that were stated on there, but that might have been the ground mounted option. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
Make a motion to accept the low bidder.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Passion to accept the lower bid from Garling Construction, seconded by Cummins.
Passion,
Yes.
Johnston,
Yes.
Cummins, Wilkins, or Welker.
Wilkins, no. Welker, yes.
I'll change my name.
All right, second item under city business is discussion and possible action concerning conducting an asbestos inspection of the James Kennedy Family Aquatic Center. No, I don't think so. I think he's given his form back.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
We were all waiting for you to speak, Terry. You got up and we thought you were gonna make some grand statement or something.
Was I, huh?
Just stretching his leg.
Yeah, you got up when I was finished. We thought you were going to talk to us about asbestos.
I think to our surprise, we found out that this survey has to be done. And when asked about it, the engineer provided the documentation from the DNR, and he said that he called the DNR and confirmed that it has to be done. He said that it may, in the end, be no more than just the survey saying that there's no need to take any action, but apparently we have to do it.
And if they are to find asbestos, that would require abatement
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
at our expense, right? City expense probably,
Yeah.
I mean, I
which
agree.
could be expensive.
Could be, but I agree with you. There should
There
not
shouldn't
be
be.
any material used in that had asbestos in it. But stranger things,
Mhm.
we found some surprises along the way. But it's another thing we have to do.
Yeah.
Make a motion to have the asbestos inspection done.
Second.
Okay, motion by Poston, seconded by Welker.
Johnston,
Yes.
Poston,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yeah.
Welker.
Yes.
All right. Next item on the agenda is just reports from department heads, council members, city manager.
I have one thing.
Yeah.
With this, the paint with the interpool, the painter said we need to media blast the walls. I contacted the guy who did a test site on the southwest corner of the interpool. The paint rep, he's actually looking into his paint rep to make sure that if we have to go down to concrete or not. So that's, I haven't heard back from him yet. I'm still working on that, but I'm not sure how much that's gonna cost. But he said how, well, everybody knows how bad the paint is. We have to media blast it to, before we can paint. We can just paint over top of it because it's so warped and everything else. So I just want to give everybody a heads up. I'm looking into it. As soon as I find out anything, I'll let you guys know.
We'll add that to our plan.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
Brad, John, Brian, anything? No? Council members,
Nope.
anything? Do you have anything, Brian? Melissa? No? Okay. All right. Then need a motion for adjournment.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Johnson, seconded by Poston.
Poston,
Yes.
Cummins, Johnston,
Yes.
Welker.
Here. That was pretty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned.